Hello, the topic for this session is Information Technology Jobs or IT Jobs. This is Hassan Mir from Zero2ProTraining.com. So in one of my other videos, I have discussed a typical infrastructure setup in a company, and based on that, now we will talk about what are the typical job roles available in a company that is using IT infrastructure. So I'll take help from this diagram that you see on the screen to explain you what are the different job roles and how they interact with the infrastructure. First, let's talk about a help desk or support role. Job role of a help desk person or a support person is to manage the software that are directly used by the end users on their desktop or laptops. Software that are used by users may include emailing software like Outlook or Lotus Notes. It may include printing software. It may include desktop sharing software, screen capturing software. These are just examples. So the first point of contact for end users is help desk, and either they fix a problem or they route the request to some other team, and other team may include developers or programmers that are responsible for creating the application that users are using, and other teams may include database team that are managing the database, operating system teams that are managing the operating system, or so on, based on where the problem is coming from. But the first point of contact for the users is the help desk. So help desk acts as a bridge between users and other teams in order to resolve the issues. Whenever a new software is implemented, help desk is trained in how to troubleshoot common problems, so they are able to solve the common problems themselves, and for the rest they have to rely on other teams. Now we will talk about network administrators. A role for network administrator is to manage the network and security in terms of data flow. Data is flowing from one computer to the other. That computer could be a desktop from where the data is flowing, and the other computer could be the heavy-duty servers, or data could flow from one server to the other, and so on. And the health of this communication is managed by the network administrators. Not only that, they also manage the security of the data flowing from within the company to the outside world through the internet, and they manage the firewall as well, which I've already explained in the other video. It could be a combination of hardware and software, and the role of firewall is to make sure only the legal data travels through the firewall and everything else is blocked. Next, we will talk about system administrator. This term is broadly used for different roles, but mainly a system administrator is responsible to manage the health of the operating system. So operating systems are running on every computer. In fact, they are running on desktops as well as on the servers, and on top of operating system you install applications. So operating system is the bridge between the applications and the hardware, and operating systems on the servers are little more heavy duty than what you see on the desktops. These operating systems could be Windows, Linux, Unix, or any other, but they need to be managed properly, and that is the primary role of a system administrator. Keep in mind that system administrators are managing the operating system on the servers. Operating systems on laptops and desktops used by the end users are managed by the help desk. Keep in mind that sometimes the roles are not as well defined, and sometimes one person is sharing more than one role, and sometimes one role is shared by multiple people. It all depends on the scale of IT infrastructure that a company has. If a company has only one server, you may have only one system administrator, but there could be cases where on one server there are tons of applications installed, and even one operating system requires a team to be maintaining it, so you may have more than one person. And If there are more than one servers, then you may have a team of system administrators. It is very common in companies that a person responsible for one role is doing activities of some other role as well under the same umbrella. For example, it's very common to see system administrators also managing the databases in some companies, and in yet other companies they have separate staff to manage the database, as we'll talk about. Yet in very small companies you will have one person managing the network, managing the operating system, and sometimes also acting as a help desk. So this is not a hard and fast rule, but typically this is what the roles are in a company. So when somebody tells you I'm a system administrator, your first thought should go towards the operating system. When somebody tells you I am a help desk person, your first thought should go towards the desktop. And if somebody tells you I'm a network administrator, your first thought should go towards the network. Typically a company would have a server running databases, and you need a database administrator to manage the health of the database. When I use the term health, that entails many things. To make sure, first of all, the database is up and running, then manage the backups and recover the system in case of a disaster, to manage the security, and so on. Similarly, the person managing the health of the operating systems would be doing similar things, making sure that operating system is up and running, troubleshoot any issues, manage the security, and also manage the backup recovery taking place at the operating system level. So backup could happen at the operating system level, as well as they must happen at the database level as well. So you're managing the database backup. So that is what database administrators would be doing. Another term that you will come across is application administrator. Again, in some companies application administrators would be called as system administrators, but you always have to think in terms of the model that you have in mind, that uh, what exactly are they doing. So you will ask more questions until you actually figure out whether they are system administrators or really an application administrator. So what is an application administrator? First of all, what is an application? An application could be imagined as an out-of-the-box software that you have installed and you have configured it based on your needs. That configuration part is called implementation part, and the term implementation would be used if it's a very big application. If it's a small application, then you will simply call it installation and maybe configuration. But once application is up and running, it will be accessed by the users through their desktop, either using a browser if it's a web-based application, or using some client software that is talking to the application server on which the application is installed. In some cases, applications will be installed directly on the desktop, and those will be smaller applications, of course. Now coming back to the term application administrator, this will only apply to heavy-duty applications like ERP, enterprise resource applications, for example SAP, Oracle, e-business suite, etc. These heavy-duty applications require a dedicated person or a team to manage the security of the application. For example, if you want to add a new user to the SAP application, then you will contact the application administrator. Can you please add a user? And if you want to install a printer at the application level, not at the operating system level, at the application level, then you will contact the application administrator. But first the printer has to be installed on the server. By contacting the system administrator you can do that, but that doesn't mean this printer is available to this big heavy-duty application as well. These are just examples. And if you want, you're facing some issues in the application, for example your checks are not printing out, you're unable to enter invoices, these are examples of an ERP application issues, for example, then you will contact application administrator to find out what's going on. So each application comes with its own sets of terminologies. For example, in SAP implementations, the term would be used as basis administrators. Basis is a person doing the same thing as I explained. In Oracle e-business suite environment, the term system administrator is more referred to this role that I have just explained. So again, don't take these titles here as carved in stone. There is lots of mix and match that goes on in the real life, but these are just generic titles for the sake of you understanding what's going on in the IT world. Then we have programmer or developer. So this is a person who is either creating a new software or application from scratch rather than company buying out of the box solution from aftermarket. They are creating their own solution from scratch. So they are writing the code from the beginning, and they need a developer or a programmer who understand programming languages like Java or C or some other similar languages. If it's a web-based application being developed, then the person would be an expert in PHP or JSP languages, or maybe ASP language, for example. So a program is being developed from scratch by the programmer, and to understand this, just imagine one company has purchased an accounting software from a third-party vendor, let's say QuickBooks or ACPAC, and they just installed it, and with little bit configuration it's up and running. And another company decides that they will create their own accounting software, so they will hire programmers and they will create something that will be installed on the application server, and users will be accessing this application through their browser or some client software. So smaller piece of software will go on the desktop that will connect to the main application running on the application server. And if a company has developed something using old school, then the whole application will go in the on the desktop directly, and then there's no need for the application server. So that is a good solution if in your company you have 2 computers and 2 people. That's it. So you can simply install something directly on the computers rather than creating a separate server. Again, keep in mind I'm explaining you a typical environment because the trend is changing very fast, and a future company will not have all these boxes here for application servers and database servers. These applications will be hosted on a cloud, meaning on some other computers outside this company's boundary, and this company will only have the desktops, and this company's end users will be accessing the application hosted on a cloud, and the company will be paying the vendor who has hosted the application based on the usage, based on how much hardware they are consuming, hardware resources they are consuming on the vendor's computer, and how much software they are using. So it is basically they are paying for the service, and that is the concept of the cloud. So things are changing very fast, and you will see some new roles that I have discussed in another video, like cloud architecture and so on. Then we have tester. A tester is a person who is expert in testing the software that is created by the programmers or developers. Before it is handed over to the end users, the software would be tested in multiple iterations to make sure it is emitting the right quality. And the role tester is also sometimes called quality assurance person, and sometimes quality assurance person does more than what a tester does. So these are all related roles, and these are expert people who understand the science of testing a software. So I have discussed this role briefly earlier. So an implementer is the person who is expert in understanding the functionality of the application that a company has purchased as an out-of-the-box solution from the vendor. Again, SAP, Oracle E-Business Suite, PeopleSoft, JD Edwards, Siebel, these are examples. Although this is a pre-built software, but somebody has to configure it. Configuration meaning somebody has to go to the setup screens of the software and tell the software how your company is doing the business, what are the processes inside your company, because each company is different from the other company. You have to enter all the information, and this is just in simple words. In fact, this is an operation that goes for a few months, the configuration, and there is still some gaps that are unable to be filled by the configuration, and software might have to be modified, and developers then come into the picture and they modify this out of the box solution, and the term is called customizations, and people who are doing the customization are called programmers or developers or technical experts. Okay, so an implementer is a person who will configure this software that you have purchased from outside vendor so that the software could work for your company. The term functional consultant or functional expert is also used for this role. Now I will discuss some roles that are not directly related to the diagram we saw for an infrastructure, but these roles are there in a company. For example, a project manager manages projects, and projects are always going on in a company. A project consists of series of tasks. When completed, they will achieve a purpose. And in a typical project, you will do requirement gathering once a team is formed, and requirement gathering will dictate the scope of the project. Then you will do what you were supposed to do, either development or configuration. If you're creating if you're creating an application from scratch, then that will be a development role, and if you are configuring an application, then this project will be about configuration. Once you are done what you're supposed to do, you will do multiple testings, you will do training of the end users so that they can use the new product that you created or configured. Then you will go live, meaning you will start using the software. Keep in mind that a project is not always about developing or configuring a software. It could be about anything. We need to upgrade the network, we need to install a firewall, we need to create a new department, we need to change the hardware. So project managers are there to manage any kind of projects. Then we have managers. Project manager is a short-lived role. Project manager appears when a project appears. When a project is finished, project manager is gone. So usually in big companies, they are working as employees. Once one project is finished, they're going to go to the next one. But they also work on contract basis, because once a project is finished, they're going to go to a different client and look for some new projects. And however, a permanent role is of a manager. A manager manages a team. A manager could be of any department. It could be a network manager managing, for example, your network team. It could be a manager managing your system administrators. It could be a manager managing your database team. It could be a manager managing your application administrators, managing your programmers, and different term or different title would be used for all of those different managers that I just gave you examples for. But in short, manager is a person managing the team, and managers are usually reporting to directors, which are usually managing departments, but this is not really hard and fast rule. Directors usually report to VPs or vice presidents, and vice presidents usually report to presidents, who reports to CEO of the company.